Welcome back. In this week's episode, we discuss Lizzo playing James Madison's flute, Italy's new conservative prime minister, and the murder of Republican teenager Cayler Elingson. I'm Luke,
Nah, I'm Rody.
and this is the Right Side of the Compass podcast. So, we're back.
We're back, guys. The boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town. No, I'm having a good time. But on the bright side, it's a lot of things have happened recently, so that gives us a lot of time to go over some big events. Of course, Joe Biden has been making gaffes all the time, and we can't forget about that. But we're not really here to talk about Joe Biden's gaffes today. I think that speaks for itself. We don't really need any help with that. Of course, there was Hurricane Ian, which we decided to not
Self.
talk about today.
Get
But
it?
what?
It speaks for itself. Get it?
Ah, boo! Get out of here! Get lost! Get out of here! That was terrible. That was terrible. And of course, you have Hurricane Ian that rocked Florida. That was kind of nuts.
yeah. Oh, Ian. He could go to hell.
Unbelievable. No, of course there's going to be someone who's like, no. Ian identifies with the they/them pronouns. So you shouldn't call Hurricane Ian a he. Okay? Like seriously? No, yeah. And of course, it is the Jewish high holidays this month, which means that nothing. It doesn't mean anything because we don't have Jewish writers. We are the Jewish writers, so we don't get off.
Jewish
So
jokes.
Jewish jokes. Unbelievable. All right, so that's that. Before we continue, I want to let you know that in order to continue doing this podcast, we need your help, dear listener. We need you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with all your friends. In addition, you can hit the notification bell to be notified of our latest uploads. On top of all that, if for whatever reason you don't like YouTube, you want to use a different platform, we have our podcast available on all your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple, Google, and anything of the like. If you can listen to podcasts there, you can listen to us there. Anyways, we put a lot of work into this episode, so I hope you enjoy. Anyways, let's get down to the first topic of business, which I think is going to be Lizzo twerking with James Madison's flute.
Yeah, I think that title kind of explains itself.
Yeah, but I mean, well, first of all, let's go over the facts here, and then we can kind of talk about everything surrounding it. This is from Variety. So Lizzo made history this week during the Washington, D.C. stop of her The Special Tour when she performed with a 200-year-old flute once owned by founding father and U.S. President James Madison. The flute was gifted to Madison in 1813 and it has been maintained by the Library of Congress. And this is, I'm going to quote, so this is not my language. Bitch, I just twerked and played James Madison's crystal flute from the 1800s, Lizzo told concert goers. We just made history tonight. Lizzo is a classically trained flautist and only blew a few notes out of Madison's crystal flute, which she was invited to play by Librarian of Congress Carla Hayden, and yet Republicans are up in arms over the brief performance. Several GOP members took to social media after videos of Lizzo playing the flute went viral to accuse her of desecrating American history just for the sake of it, as right-wing pundit Matt Walsh alleged on Twitter. It sends a message that our heritage and history are meaningless and that nothing we love or care about has any value, Walsh added. And this is, I think, the most important thing. The Daily Wire editor Ben Shapiro wrote that this Lizzo flute controversy is a perfect example of what I have termed the face tattoo phenomenon. The phenomenon whereby someone does something deliberately controversial in an attempt to draw attention and then acts offended when you notice. So yeah, I would say that. Yep, that sounds about right. Here's the thing. This is kind of what I feel about it. I don't hate Lizzo for the sake of hating Lizzo. Like I think she's not a great artist. She has that one song that's on
Here's
TikTok all the
something else. You know the Mean Girls quote? It's like, oh,
hate you
I
because
don't
you're
hate
fat.
you.
You're fat because I hate you. That's why Lizzo's fat because I hate Lizzo.
Sorry. Go on,
No.
yeah,
But
was
in all seriousness, though, I think that it's very easy to hate on Lizzo for doing this, but we need to remember what the problem here is. it's not because Lizzo is Lizzo. It's not because Lizzo generally writes about stupid things and her music is terrible. That's not why. Because well, number one of her songs is trending on TikTok, so she can't be that bad, right? I think she actually has a pretty decent voice. But more importantly, that's not even the issue. Even if her music was total trash, degenerate nonsense, right? The reality is that that's a lot of music nowadays. But every generation has their music, and it would have been okay for her to play the flute. But the problem is she did it. You saw the outfit that she was wearing, right? It was like very revealing. It wasn't very modest, and she was twerking while she was playing the flute.
Yeah, it wasn't, I think the way she went about it wasn't appropriate for what the flute represents, or, the history behind it, and just something very, such value and such, history. You would think you would treat something, with a lot of history with more respect.
Yeah, that's like I think the theme of this episode is going to be the sacred, right? It, if you treat the United States and its kind of way of life as a culture, as a religion, right? Because everything is a religion ultimately, right? Then one of the artifacts of our culture is this flute, right? I didn't know we had such a flute. I wasn't aware of it, but the fact that I became aware of it this way makes me very sad. I wish I could have been aware of it, by her playing it while she was wearing a nice gown and she wasn't twerking and she kind of took it seriously, but she
Or she
didn't
was
do that.
wearing like a historical, like, attire, kind of, that
Yeah, if she
represents
took
like
it more
the
yeah,
time.
if she took yeah, if she took it more seriously, if she's not like singing the same songs that we hear on the radio and she just like comes out and she plays it like I could see like maybe at like like an event of some kind, like maybe Joe Biden is holding some kind of event in honor of some holiday and they invite Lizzo to play the flute, right? And then Lizzo comes out, she's dressed nicely, she's not twerking because she's in front of members of Congress and the president or whatever, and she comes out and she plays, the flute nicely, right? And without twerking, right? I think that would have been acceptable. I think a lot of people would have been like, okay, maybe Joe Biden's president, but this is respectful, right? But this is not how you treat the flute. This is not like it would be like imagine if someone, I don't know, the rabbi came or like instead of having the rabbi blow shofar in Rosh Hashanah, they hired the rabbi's daughter to blow shofar while she was twerking in front of the congregation. Like that's kind of like what it would be like, honestly.
Wow. That's crazy.
Am I wrong though? Am I wrong?
I mean, even if you were wrong, I can't say it because you're never wrong, Luke.
No, that's true. That's
Rule
true.
number
But
one.
what is rule number one? I'm always right. No, no, no. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Like even if technically she played the flute and she technically did a good job, there's a certain respect you need to have for such a piece of history, and she didn't do it because I don't think Lizzo is capable of respect. I don't think
Why
Lizzo
why
respects
did they
herself
give it to her? Like
because
she was the first person to play it, like, besides him, no?
no, I don't. Is that the case? I don't know. I'm sure other people have done it. Maybe it's some type of like honor to be like offered to play this flute, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe she was the first person to play it in a while.
I have no idea. I mean, it says
Right,
in
but
the
either way,
article.
no, she said she made history, but I don't know what that means because they always say they make history, even when they actually didn't make history, even when they, even when there were other black people. Like they always say, like for example, oh, this is gonna be the first black superhero, and then they forget that there was a black superhero before that, and there was a gay superhero before that, and it's just like they don't actually know what they're doing when they say that, or they say it on purpose because they want to be like that. But the point of the matter is not whether she was the first or not the first. Maybe if she was the first, it would have been even worse. But that's not really the issue here, is it?
No, I just think, like, I agree with you. It's just the way she went about it. It's not about what you do. I mean, it's about how you do things, not about like what you're doing.
Right. And I think the reason they gave it to Lizzo, I think the reason they picked Lizzo is because I don't think Lizzo respects herself that much, right? I think Lizzo is like I'm gonna say this as meanly as possible and as in a disrespectful way as possible. and that is that Lizzo is a fat piece of garbage, and she doesn't respect herself. She doesn't respect those around. Like, listen, I say this as a fat person myself, right? I'm not exactly Mr. Skinny over here, but I recognize that I'm fat, and I don't think it's good, right? Lizzo is like the fat acceptance movement. She wants everyone to worship her because of the size of her body, right? And she doesn't like Adele. Adele was also a big woman, right? But Adele carried herself with grace, and then she lost a lot of weight, right? That's what, like, we're not perfect. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think, like,
She got backlash for
if
that.
there's ever what,
She got backlash for that, for losing weight.
yeah, she got backlash. But the point is not, it's not about her public. It's about how Lizzo has no value beyond whatever she thinks is going to make her money or get her more clout. I don't think she's a very principled person, which is why you see she has no control over what she eats. You see that she has no problem twerking with an important piece of American history because she doesn't care about American history. She was born however many, maybe 30 years ago she was born. As far as she's concerned, history started 30 years ago when she was born. She has no respect for our culture. She has no respect for anything. She has no respect for herself. And that's why I think they did it, because they wanted to humiliate our culture. So they took this priceless artifact that we have from James Madison, one of the
Well, I
fathers,
think it was
one of the
more.
founding of our.
I think it was more like, oh, it's like, look how far we've come, kind of. That's what they wanted to like represent, or what they think how far we've come.
Right, but it's not right. But I could listen. If this was an honest attempt at saying, "Look how far we've come that we have a black woman playing James Madison's flute," which, by the way, is not the own that they think it is. I mean, he wrote the Constitution, so it's not the own that they think it is.
I think because he was like a
Um,
slave owner or something. But they all
okay,
were.
but he set up the system that allowed the slaves to be free. It's much more complicated than whether, oh, we have this history or not. The question is, what are we doing now? Whatever. But let's say they wanted to do this. There's a way to do it in such a way that this person can be a civilized, respectful person. There were plenty of black artists, black female artists, by the way, who could have done this, who have more respect for themselves. But Lizzo is not that person. Lizzo's the type of person who will disrespect it for clout, and then they wonder why Republicans get all up in arms, because, like Ben said, it's the face tattoo phenomenon. I'm supposed to sit there and look at Lizzo twerking with James Madison's flute, and then she's allowed to get offended when I notice that she was just twerking with James Madison's flute. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
We're gonna get offended by this. Sorry,
Mm.
I'm sorry, sorry. In any case, let's talk about our next topic, because I'm done talking about an undignified woman, and I want to now talk about someone a little bit more dignified. um, let's
Who
talk about
might
this is
that
from the
be?
Daily Wire. What?
Who might that be?
So we have a new prime minister in Italy. Her name is Giorgia Meloni, and this is from the Daily Wire. Conservative Giorgia Meloni claims victory as Italy's first female prime minister. Giorgia Meloni claimed victory early Monday morning and is projected to win a battle to become Italy's first female prime minister, leading her conservative party Brothers of Italy in the country's national elections. Her party indicated Maloney's center-right coalition had received 44% of the vote, with nearly all ballots counted on Monday, far ahead of the nation's center-left coalition that received just 26%. So as people who cover Israel politics from time to time, we're actually quite familiar with Israel's political system. This is all very familiar to those who are familiar with Israel's political system, the coalition type of government, because the leader of the country is decided by the coalitions. If we are called to govern this nation, we will do it for everyone. We will do it for all Italians, and we will do it with the aim of uniting the people, Maloney said in a victory speech, according to the Associated Press. Italy chose us. We will not betray it, as we never have. The report noted that voter turnout was at a historic low of just 64%, perhaps influenced by backroom deals involving past governments. Maloney, 45, ran on a platform that included a rock-solid NATO stand, including support for Ukraine against Russia's invasion. She has also been a vocal opponent of the European Union's recommendation to spend 7.5 billion euros to Hungary over alleged democratic concerns in the nation.
All right, so
Let me see here. Is there anything else?
what's your opinion on this whole thing?
Well, I think, well, if you actually see what Georgia Maloney has said regarding, family and abortion, and basically she's a social conservative with some kind of globalist leanings, but more or less she's a pretty standard conservative. What makes it interesting is seeing like historically progressive Europe. You remember when we were kids and everyone would tell us if you were a Republican, say, well, the Europeans are much more forward thinking than you Americans. The Americans are so backwards. They have a Second Amendment, but Europeans have universal health care and they have this. And the Europeans are much better than Americans. And we see that the Europeans they're going more right.
Yeah, I hear that.
Like, for
But yeah,
example,
no,
we
I
saw with
remember that happening.
Sweden, we saw Sweden going back more conservative. I don't know if we spoke about it, but there was a big story about how Sweden's elections were more were ran very conservative, and how France is now having some quote unquote far right candidates, including a Jewish Nazi, which makes about as much sense as you'd think it is. Um, but the point is, is that Europe is not this kind of left wing utopia.
Yeah.
And I think it's very
Mm,
important for us to see that there is a way to go forward as conservatives. We can present a conservative vision that's more than just, you know, low taxes, low taxes. We need low taxes and less government involvement and more open borders. We don't need that. We can have a conservative vision of the world, which is about tradition, about family. Have you ever seen any of Georgia Maloney's speeches?
no, I have not. So,
Well, basically, if you see her speak, you'll see she talks about things like family and tradition, and and Michael
yeah,
Knowles
like
was talking
culture.
about this. Actually, yeah, culture. It's very cultural. She wants to preserve Italy, right? That's why I don't think she's like more ideologically conservative in the sense that she wants to lower taxes. That's not the issue. I mean, I'm sure she does, but that's not really what her mo is. What her mo is, as Michael Knowles said, I don't want anyone with pie in the sky. I mean, I want someone to protect my bowl of spaghetti. Like, there's a culture that's here. No, but seriously, there's a culture that's here where you live, and that culture belongs. It's while it doesn't
Sacred.
belong to any what it's sacred, exactly. It doesn't belong to any one person. You can't The party cannot just come tomorrow and say, we're going to change this because we want higher taxes or we want more diversity. Like that, it doesn't work that way. You have to there's something to preserve. You exist. This is a Carl Benjamin who always says this. You don't exist just in the now. You are part of a continuum in history. There's the people that brought you here, and there's the people that you owe it to pass the tradition on to in the future. Right? That's kind of how conservative politics becomes four dimensional, because it's not just the X, Y, and Z axis. It's also the time axis. It's the people in the past and it's the people in the future. And you are right here, and you owe it to others to pass their culture on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're right.
Right. And that's the vision of Italy Giorgia Meloni is presenting here, which I think is a very good vision because, well, Rome and Italy, broadly speaking, they are the inheritors of great cultures. And it would be such a shame to lose it to immigration and to things like that.
I mean,
Of
have
course,
have they like has it been what's it called? Like can you actually see it in their culture that it's been changing? Like what's been changing? I mean, I haven't really been
immigration,
following politics. Immigration?
left wing, what's the thing? Left wing cultural vandalism, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Basically, this is the problem that the left has, right? Where they're not capable of having a politics that's more regional. They're very workers of the world unite, and it's good that they have a philosophy, I suppose, but it's also good when politics is simply about preserving what's there. It's not about who has the smartest idea. It's about preserving what people know and preserving what people love. People love their families. It doesn't matter. Like, when you have a family, right, you love your family. You're not always trying to figure out how to make a better family, right? You're not trying to maximize the type of family you have, right? Sometimes you have a favorite pizza shop. It may not be other people's favorite pizza shop, but it's your favorite pizza shop, and you want it to be there. You want it to survive. You want, um, the things that the way that you like them and the way they were passed to you.
I understand. You're traditional, conservative.
Right, but nowadays conservative means, oh, I'm gonna shill for big corporations. Oh, it's okay that the BlackRock and Blackstone are buying up residential properties because that's the will of the market, right? I think we've had this discussion before with a friend of ours. We had a discussion with a friend of ours.
We did.
Yeah, we did. I think there's better ways to politic than just letting the corporations do whatever they want.
Hmm.
All right, so good luck, Giorgia Meloni, as our first female prime minister in Italy who totally owned the libs. Remember when the libs always told us they wanted women everywhere? Just not this type of woman.
It's good when the woman is liberal, but when it's conservative, then it's not.
Right, because again, it's not really about women. Because you can be cultural, your skin tone can be black, but if you don't vote left, you're not actually black politically, right? And
Yeah.
you can be a woman, well, yeah, because that's how they view it, because that's how you have black people running in the Republican Party or being conservative, and they don't consider it a victory when some black guy who's a conservative wins some sort of office like that. Clarence Thomas, he's a black guy, right? But no one cares that he's black. They're always trying to trying to get him removed. They say horrible things about him and his family. It's not about being black. It's about being politically black. And it's about politically being a woman. And Giorgia Meloni is not politically a woman because she doesn't vote for the right things that women, TM, are supposed to vote for, right?
Yeah,
Because she doesn't want
exactly.
unfettered, uncontrolled access to abortion. She's not actually a woman, at least according to the left. Anyway, so we're going to go on to our third topic, but not before we wish Giorgia Meloni the best of luck and Italy the best of luck in this new
How do you say good luck in
in
Italian?
oh I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, okay, so this is going to be the third topic of today, and then we're going to hit the road. Suspect who fatally struck Republican extremist teen charged with murder. The man accused of fatally hitting a teenager with an SUV over their political differences was charged with murdering the 18-year-old on Friday. Shannon Brandt admitted to hitting Cayler Elingson with his car early in the morning of September 18th in McHenry, North Dakota, after the pair had a political argument. Ellingson allegedly went to call his mom after the argument, but Brandt said he thought the teenager was calling for people to come get him. Brandt initially fled the scene, but called 911 afterwards, saying he hit Ellingson because he thought the teen was part of a Republican extremist group. Police reported that Brandt was intoxicated at the time of the incident. Brandt was initially charged with vehicular homicide and leaving the scene of the fatal accident. The vehicular homicide charge has been dropped due to the new charge of murder. Foster County State's Attorney Kara Brinster announced on Friday. Was it go? He posted 50,000 bail and was released with no curfew or house arrest, but he is not allowed to consume alcohol, cannot leave North Dakota, can't come in close contact with the Ellingson family, cannot possess a firearm, and has to be part of a 24/7 sobriety program, court documents showed.
Wow, a lot.
Wow. Didn't know, okay. Wow,
Yeah.
wow, 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 wow. Yeah, no, that's crazy. Can you imagine if this was on the other side? Can you imagine if a Republican middle-aged man ran over a Democrat teenager?
Yeah, it would be all over the news.
Yeah, but here this guy posted $50,000 bail, which sounds like a lot of money to you and me because 50,000 is like what, half 100,000, which for some people is a year's worth of income, right?
What you say?
But remember, this guy killed someone on purpose.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
like he
I
didn't
know.
like It wasn't like driving in the middle of the night and the teenager was on the highway and he was going too fast and they jumped. Like, this guy ran over this kid for being a Republican. Insane.
It kind of reminds me of that time. What was it like during the whole like Trump campaign and Biden? Like there was a guy who was just like shot, with a shotgun for wearing a Trump hat. Like
In
and that
like
would
what in like in what was
and
it in Seattle or in Oregon? Some guy
something
came
like
up.
that. And like
Yeah, there was
it wasn't on the news and or anything.
yeah, because let's face it, the Civil War has already begun. It's not being fought with actual soldiers on the ground, but there are people killing other people because of their support of ABC president or XYZ president or whatever.
Yeah, so it was
But I'd
just
like to
like,
bring this back. What?
yeah, no, what were you saying?
I would like to bring this back to January 6th, though, because to compare let's compare January 6th to this for a second, right? You have these Republicans who go to the to Congress, right? They go and they want to go to Congress. And yeah, maybe they're rowdy and maybe they broke a couple things, but they didn't. No one died except for what was her name? The Republican person who was shot by the police.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So she died. She was shot by police, but no police officer actually died from violence from the protesters. And we saw this because they actually got the autopsy back of that from that police officer, and I think he had like a heart attack or something or stroke of some kind, which is unfortunate, but he wasn't killed by Republican violence. And basically, these people who went into the Capitol building, they're now sitting in solitary confinement because they walked into the wrong space. Meanwhile, you have this guy who murdered a person for having a political disagreement, which is what you're allowed in the United States. You're allowed to have a political disagreement with someone, and he gets $50,000 bail, and he has to do a sobriety program because the issue was that he was drunk. That's the issue. Do you want to
Of
know what I
course.
do when I'm drunk? You know what I do when I get drunk? I
Sleep.
murder my political rivals. I murder, I murder the people I disagree with politically. That's what I do when I have a drink or two.
Well, there should be bodies everywhere.
Of course, no, that's the point. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if I actually every time I drink too much, I would kill someone?
Oh
Who
my
does
God.
that? Who the hell does that?
It kind of reminds me, that video with like llama with hats?
Oh yeah. Oh, that was great.
Like,
Oh,
so it'd be
llamas
like,
with hats.
Luke, that kills people.
That kills me. Well, Luke, what's that dead guy doing in the house? Well, I was sitting in my apartment, yes, and I drank too much, yes, and then this guy walked in, yes, so I stabbed him 37 times.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So this is the difference between Republicans and Democrats. And obviously, not all Democrats. If you're a Democrat and you're listening to this, you're probably a very smart person. So thank you for listening. But I'm talking about the leadership, right? The leadership of the Democrat thinks some building is sacred, right? They think some building should be off limits to anyone, even though we pay for the building, even though it's funded by our tax dollars. Somehow we should not have to pay for, like, we should not be allowed to go in. Okay, fine, whatever. There's rules. But the January 6th guys are sitting in solitary confinement right now. But you're telling me that this guy's getting off $50,000 bail and he's being charged with murder? Okay, why isn't he being charged with terrorism?
Well, I guess
This is
one is
terrorism.
more what the guy who drank is terrorism?
Yeah, Shannon Brent. Yeah, he should be charged with terrorism. He's committing political violence to achieve political
I
ends.
don't know, because one is viewed more as treason and one is not.
But it's not
Treason is
treason.
is very high.
No, but it's not actual treason. No, no, no. So treason. No, no, no. You're thinking of something else. You're thinking of insurrection. And you want to know how we know it's not insurrection?
Wow.
Because insurrection is a legal term that has a legal definition and a legal punishment. And if they're not being charged with insurrection, that means they didn't do insurrection.
Uh-huh.
What this
What are
guy
they charged
did,
with again?
they're being charged with trespassing, but they're being put in solitary confinement. These grandmothers are being in solitary confinement for, the horn guy. The horn guy, okay, he was a little bit rowdy. He maybe wore a nice set of horns. Maybe Joe Biden was jealous of those horns. Perhaps Joe Biden wishes he could have some horns like that. But they trespassed. They didn't do anything, oh my God, so terrible. They didn't even go in and say, "Oh, we're the new government now," which is not how that works anymore. But whatever. Government is by consent of the governed, and if, like, let's say they did do that, let's say like 3,000 Trump supporters came and took over the Capitol building, and they said, "Oh, we're the government now." You know what they would do? They would just move the government temporarily somewhere else until the Republicans got tired, and then they would go back and maybe charge them with like
It's not
drunk and
about the physical
disorderly.
place.
You're not about the physical place anymore, especially now that nothing exists in a physical place anymore, thanks to the internet. The
Yeah, it's
government
true.
doesn't even need to meet in a building. They could do everything over Zoom.
True, true. I think it's more just like what the building represents.
Right, but you want to know what Cayler Elingson represented?
What?
He represented human life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what the Democrats think of us. They think of us as like, oh, if the Republicans kill someone, it's very important to get this guy. But if the Democrats kill someone, it's $50,000 bail. I think Cayler Ellingson's worth more than $50,000 bail.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, this is part of the problem with the United States. We literally do have we have a one party system where the other party is just opposition that they can't murder yet. In any case, I think that's it for today.
All right, and that's our show. Thank you for watching. Make sure to follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, and Instagram at the right side of the compass. If you want to contact us, feel free to leave a comment on YouTube or DM us on Instagram.